Hey everybody, this is nuzcraft and welcome to Cogmind. Today I'm going to be going over some tips to help you survive the early floors. All of these tips are available in the game manual, which can be found in-game by pressing F1 or Escape, then 3. Online at www.gridsagegames.com/cogmind/manual.txt or as a text file within your local Cogmind folder. If you're having trouble surviving the early floors, this video will detail a few spoiler-free tips to help you improve. First, we're going to talk about items, and the concept here is pretty basic. Prefer higher rating parts. At first, the sheer number of parts you will see will seem overwhelming, especially if you're like me and you want to compare all the stats to make sure you're getting the absolute best parts. If you open information for 2 items in a row, you'll see red and green numbers. These numbers show you the difference between the 2 parts. While this is really helpful, the easiest method is to just compare their ratings. Ratings are shown here near the top of the item, as well as next to the item name in the on-map labels, which can make it easy to find and swap new items quickly. Prototypes are a special type of item that are indicated with a star following their rating. These are better than regular items of the same rating and should be preferred. Now we're going to talk about builds. Legs are the best form of starter propulsion. They move faster than treads, have a relatively high integrity, and are easily salvaged from enemy grunts. Avoid using wheels if possible, though they've recently gotten a bit of a buff and aren't as bad as they used to be. Generally avoid mixing propulsions since you can't activate multiple types at once. I know I just said to avoid mixing propulsions, but if you don't have enough of the same type of propulsion to fill your slots, temporarily put any deactivated propulsion unit into those empty slots, preferably legs or treads. This is because propulsion units don't count against your movement, but they can block shots. Your safest first evolution is 2 propulsion slots, since an extra 2 legs will help block shots, and you don't have to worry about carrying too many things with all that leg support. For later evolutions, pick whatever your heart desires. The only one that won't be super useful is a second power slot, unless you find yourself running low on energy. Almost all robots have static loadouts, specific parts attached to them. Therefore, if you're looking for certain parts, try hunting down robots that use them. For example, Watchers carry sensors, and Sentries use treads and armor. Now let's talk about your inventory. It's best to keep a full inventory whenever possible, even if you don't think you need the parts that are lying around. Before long, you'll need to replace parts that have been blown off. Additionally, inventory items don't count against movement or have any negative side effects, so an empty inventory is an unnecessary waste. The same goes for part slots. Don't leave them empty if you don't have to, as having something there that you aren't using will still help block shots. One of the safer ways to play is to carry at least 1 storage unit to allow for carrying more spare parts in inventory. Make sure you have an extra power source and weapons, and probably spare propulsion too. The T key, or the button in your inventory, is useful for type switch your inventory to help ensure that you have the right amount of spares. Avoid unnecessary combat. It's really fun to shoot at everything, but until you have a better grasp of the consequences and know how to excel in combat, fighting too much only puts you at a disadvantage. That said, once you've engaged enemies in combat, try not to run, as you'll probably end up running into more enemies, and the situation will continue escalating. Positioning is extremely important. At the start of combat against multiple enemies, reposition to a less exposed location, preferably diagonal to the inside of a doorway or a narrow corridor that can serve as a bottleneck. It's even worth taking damage in the process of repositioning, as you'll likely take even more damage continuing to fight from a bad location. Fighting in the open is dangerous when not properly equipped to do so, but if you have a launcher, then by all means do it in the open. Retreating to fight in more isolated areas also has the advantage of avoiding additional patrols that might happen upon a battle in progress. Even when not in combat, hugging the walls while moving is a good way to stay less exposed and make access to nearby doors and corridors easier when necessary. Attach replacement parts even in the middle of battle in order to better protect your core from damage and stay at maximum effectiveness. Attaching and swapping parts is a quick action. Now we're going to talk about some of the other robots that you'll see roaming around the map. Shoot at scavengers once and they'll go away. Sometimes this is a good idea even in the middle of combat if you want to have any loot left over to sell. If a watcher doesn't send out an alert, that means there are no enemies coming. Otherwise, be prepared. Destroying haulers might provide you with relatively powerful parts to attach. Other non-hostile bots are also good targets to salvage if you're low on parts or need spares to fill up your inventory. They won't be good, but you never want to be without a backup power source, for example. Hacking machines is not too important for beginners, but as you start to get into it, be aware that if you're fully traced, it's more likely more units will be dispatched to the area to investigate. If you don't want company, always quit hacking the machine before the trace ends. Being initially detected is fine, so you can always safely hack a new machine until at least that point. Cogmind gives you the option to lower the difficulty setting, but doing so is not likely to help teach the fundamental strategies necessary to get better at the game. An alternative approach might be to set a manual seed in the options menu to some phrase, and repeatedly play the same world to focus on getting the hang of the mechanics, rather than dealing with so many unknowns. When you feel more confident, turn off the manual seed. This approach is not recommended right away. Instead, consider it after trying to apply these tips on regular worlds. More tips, tricks, and strategies can be found in the strategy section of the forums at www.gridsagegames.com/forums. Once you start getting familiar with the mechanics and strategies, you'll find yourself moving further and further through the game. Cogmind isn't really a luck-based game, and skilled players can win quite often. Well, that's going to be it for survival tips. I hope you learned something to help you navigate the first few levels of Cogmind. Thank you so much for watching. This is nuzcraft, and I'll see you in the next one.